Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 59. In this episode, the problem we're going to be working on is what happens when the player collects health and making sure that we increase our health. So, the solution is a little bit trickier than just adding to our current health because we might be currently in the midst of taking damage. And in that case, we need to reduce the amount of damage that we're taking. So, turns out there's three cases. You can break it up however you want to, but I found that it's easiest for me to think of this in three cases. So the first case is there is more damage being taken than health. So we get hit by a bat that does, say, 3 damage, and we collect a health heart that does gives you 2 health. So what happens in that situation is we just reduce the amount of damage that we're taking. So we still take damage. We still take 1 damage because, right, we're taking 3 damage and adding 2 health, so we end up taking only 1 damage. But in this case, we just reduce the amount of damage that we would ordinarily take. In the second case, there's more health than damage, but there still is some damage. So what we need to do in that case is reduce damage to 0 and increase health by the amount of health that's left over. So we take, say, 1 damage from a bat, and we get a health heart that restores 2. So we reduce the amount of damage to 0 that the bat does, but then we also increase our health by 1. So for a total of plus 1 health, because our damage takes some time to actually take effect. And then finally, if there is no damage, then we can just increase the health, and this is just the normal situation. There's one more thing we need to worry about too, and that is to remember to update the fill sizes afterwards so that the damage fill sprite reflects how much damage you're actually taking once you've reduced the damage. And then the other thing I'm going to do in this episode is really quickly, before I even get into this, is implement this multi-heart pickup. And this is something I meant to do in the last episode, but the last episode was getting pretty long, and this will really only take like a couple minutes at most. So let's go into flashing pickup.h and actually implement this multi-heart pickup so that we have a couple of more hearts to work with. So let's do multi-heart pickup. It's just going to be the exact same as our heart pickup constructor. So I'll go into the CC file and we can actually implement our pickup. Again, we don't need static because it means something different in this context. But we do need to scope it in, so I will scope it in with flashing pickup. And then our return statement is going to look a lot very similar to our heart pickup. The only difference I'm going to do is I'm going to change the names of all these constants and then make new constants to make up for it. So we'll do sk heart with k multi-heart. And we will go up to the top and define some new variables that are k multi-heart instead of k heart. So source x is now going to be at 4 and not 2 for the multi-heart. Our rectangle, I need to look to see what this is, but it's 6, 7, 26, 25. And our value is 6 because there's really 3 hearts in there, so 2 times 3 is 6. And that is it. That's all we have for our multi-heart pickup. We can go into our game CC and actually see what it looks like by calling multi-heart pickup instead of heart pickup. And I can build and run and see what this looks like. I guarantee you it will look excellent. So there it is. It's flashing back and forth. We can pretty much trust that it's going to work, but I'll just let it run its course. And it's done. Okay. So that's all we need from game. I'm actually going to change this back to a regular heart pickup, so it'll make it easier to test because we will have smaller health boosts. It'll just be easier to test. Trust me. Just trust me. Have I led you astray yet? Okay, so now that the multi-heart pickup is done, we can move on to the actual collecting of health. So the first place we're going to go for that is to go to player.h and work on our health sprite, or health struct. We're going to add a couple of new methods to this. The first is, of course, add health, so that we can actually add health. And this is going to be units of HP, and it's going to be health. And then the other one I'm going to make is just a simple helper method to reset our sprites, our fill sprites. So let's call it set fill sprites. Maybe reset fill sprites. And this will just be from inside of our take damage. We have some fill sprite stuff to do. And so let's open up player health CC. Here is where we're resetting our fill sprites. So let's break that out first. That'll be easy. We need to scoop this in. That ended up being more work. Oh well. It's worth a try, right? So let's move these down into here, and instead of those we'll just call reset fill sprites. And this is using the local variable damage, but we can just use the member variable damage. Now let's make add health. So basically what all three of these cases are doing is they are determining how much health to add at the end, but then also reducing the damage. So we can just know that we're going to add some amount of health at the end, whether it's 0 or some reduced amount or just the original health. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with that and say current health is equal to, and we'll need to do standard min, right? Because we don't want to go over the max health, and current health plus health. So we'll be editing this health value inside a series of if statements to make sure that it is reduced if it needs to be reduced. And then the other thing we need to do is remember to update the fill sizes. So let's update fill sizes, reset fill size sprites. So now let's work through these cases. And the first case was if damage was greater than health. And if that's the case, then we just need to decrement the amount of damage we do. So damage minus equals health. And then we set health to be equal to 0 because we've used it all up. So health equals 0. And that way when we get to this line, we don't increase current health at all. Else, if damage, the next case we're working on is if there is more health than damage, but there is some damage. So if damage is greater than 0, then we need to set damage to be equal to 0 after we've removed some of our health. So health minus equals damage, and then damage is set to 0. And then finally, we just leave health alone, and we also leave damage alone because there is no damage. So then we don't need to do anything for the final case because it's taken care of in line 95. Current health is equal to the standard min. All right, so that should handle it, but now I'm going to spend some time testing it. I'm going to open up first cave bat, and because we're going to adjust the amount of contact damage in a little bit, but let's just test it out for now. First test I'm going to do is just make sure I don't go over 6. That should be easy because I just collect it. Okay, great. I don't go over 6. You know what? Before I start testing it like this, though, I should make sure that I'm actually calling it in the case of collect pickup. So that would be a useful thing to do. So else if pickup dot type is equal to pickup health, then we need to add to our health. So add health, and we'll add pickup dot value. And it turns out we got an implicit cast, so we don't really need to do any static casts. So I'll get rid of the static cast up here too, because it's just kind of ugly. What? Oh, there we go. And let C++ do the magic it would do anyway. So now, actually, I'm going to take damage just to make sure that we're actually collecting health. So I'm at 5 health, and I should be at 6 after this, and I am. Perfect. And the sprite updated, so the fill sprite updated. Now let's see what happens when we're doing it while we take damage. That works. Now let's take like 3 damage. So 1, 2, 3, so we can see. Yep. So after we've taken some damage, it fills up. Now I'm going to make the bat do some more damage. I'll make him do 5 damage so we can see, we can check this first case, you know, if damage is greater than health. So we'll just take damage once and then fill up. So we got 5 damage. Okay, so yeah, we it might have been hard to see, so I'll do it a little faster this time. Maybe, I doubt it. I'll catch him on the second time on the downswing. So yeah, so you could see that I was still at 6 health, but my damage, the amount of damage I was being dealt, decreased some. So yeah, I'm pretty much happy. I think I tested all of the cases, and if not on camera, then I tested them off camera. It's hard to remember them all. Maybe it would have been better to write them down so you could have seen them all, but that was just the gist of it. Like, you just got to think about all these extra cases. So I'm going to switch the first cave bat's contact damage back to 1 and call that the end of the episode. Yeah, fun stuff. So that's it for this episode. Thanks for watching, guys, and happy developing.